This has never happened before. Harry Roberts, the co-founder of Mattress Firm, called me and said, we want to have you on the Bed Buzz podcast. So in this very special episode, I sit down with Jim Hill and Harry Roberts, and they flip the microphone around on me. The FAM podcast starts right now. For the first time ever, top retailers can carry the luxury mattress line one of America's top sleep retailers has kept to themselves until now. Introducing Prana Sleep, crafted from 100% natural materials featuring luxury latex quilted directly into the top panel. It's a feel no competitor can match. Born from decades of retail experience, Prana Sleep delivers premium performance, customer loyalty, and unmatched sleep satisfaction. Your competition is going to hate selling against Prana Sleep because nothing compares. Apply now at pranasleep.com. Did you know that 86% of customers buy from the first business that responds? And if you text back very quickly, that number jumps to over 90%. That's why Podium's AI employee, Jerry, is a game changer. Jerry never sleeps, never takes a lunch break, and never puts in a 2-week notice. He's always on, responding in seconds, so you never lose a lead again. Turn missed calls into texts, capture more leads, and close more deals, all with Podium. Want to see how it works? Get a demo today at podium.com/fam. Podium, because speed wins sales.
In the mattress world, a no at checkout means a lost sale. That's where American First Finance comes in. We help you say yes to more customers, even if their credit isn't perfect. With fast setup, tailored solutions, and support every step of the way, you're not just offering a way to pay. You're inviting them to Yesville, where more people get approved and customers can take home the mattress they need today. Visit AmericanFirstFinance.com to get started.
Welcome to the FAM podcast with Mark Kinsley. This is where the best in the bedding business get even better.
Welcome, everyone, back to another very special episode of The Bed Buzz. I'm Harry Roberts, your host, here with everyone's favorite, Jimmy Hill.
Harry, it feels great to be back in the studio after Sleep Summit. I'm still catching up on my rest, but man, what an event. Great people, huge ideas, and just a ton of energy. And I'm excited for our guest today because he is the mastermind behind Sleep Summit.
Yes, this guy, he's done it all. He's an author. He's a brand builder. He's been CEO of Englander. He is the creator of the FAM and the voice of the FAM podcast with more than 650 episodes. Jimmy, can you imagine? That means we've got to do this crap for 25 years to catch up.
You don't have enough time, bro. I'm sorry.
I don't. Way to bring that up. Thank you.
This guy, he helped put the word hybrid into the mattress dictionary. He stirred up the industry with bold marketing and somehow still finds time to host incredible events like Sleep Summit and Dream Camp. And now he's out teaching AI to our industry.
Yeah, this guy's a visionary, a community builder, and a good friend of ours, Mr. Mark Kinsley. Welcome to the Bed Buzz.
I'm buzzing, baby. I am buzzing with excitement. I'm so excited to be here.
We're so honored to have you on the show. I mean, I can't imagine of the 650 of your shows I've listened to, man. I bet you 600 of them. Yeah. I've used them for motivation. I appreciate you. So this show's about you, though. We want to go back in time a bit, Mark. You got to tell us a little bit about, your before you got into this mattress industry. Give our audience a little bit, like, who's Mark before mattresses?
Well, at Sleep Summit, I kind of went down this path. I'm like, well, there I was, born to Mick and Marilyn Kinsley in 1981 of October. Well, I was born in a small town with one stoplight. One stoplight was really a suggestion. I just kind of blew through it most of the time. But I graduated in a small town, and before I graduated from college, I was a little bit wayward, trying to figure out the college thing. I eventually made it through my bachelor's and master's, but I could have been a doctor several times over. But I remember meeting a friend's mom, and she had done all these crazy jobs, and she was hilarious. And she had been a radio disc jockey. And I was like, how did you get that job? She's like, I just went in and pretty much sparkled them with her personality. And so I figured out a way to get a job as a classic rock DJ at 19 years old. And then that kind of transitioned into media stuff. And I ran a camera in the studio at a TV station. And before I graduated, I just kept going to the news director. I'm like, hey man, can I just put together some stories for you on my own? All you gotta do is loan me the camera. And so I'm just going, if you want to run them, great. If not, that's fine. Just give me some feedback. And so they started running my stories. This is before I graduated from college. And then a reporter's position came up, and I knew I was the easy button because I was getting good enough. With a little bit of guidance, I might be able to be on the air. And so I was 21 and I got the reporter's job. They didn't have to pay for relocation or any of that stuff. And then a month later, the only other male in the newsroom, besides the main anchor, this guy was the weekend anchor. His name was Ken, and he left and took another job. And they looked at me and they were like, tag, you're it. So at 21, I was the weekend anchor on the TV station. And I remember the first story that I ever hosted from the news desk was the day that our troops dragged Saddam Hussein out of that spider hole. That was the first story I reported from the main desk. And so after that, I was running around the countryside, like looking at meth labs that had blown up. And I, remember one time there was this couple of druggies, out in the country that the law enforcement, they were trying to get. And finally they figured out that a neighbor said they had a baby deer inside. And so the wildlife warden knocked on the door because they couldn't figure out how to get these yahoos. Knocked on the door and this baby deer toddled out. Well, that was illegal. And so they were able to bust in and get him for drugs. And I remember holding that baby deer on the air, doing a live report. And so I got to do super fun stuff like that really kind of honed my storytelling skills. And eventually radio, TV for several years as I finished up my master's degree. And that led to me being like, these hours are terrible. But I want to get into advertising and marketing. And that eventually led to me having an amazing client called Leggett Platt.
Wow.
So you got to give us a little taste of your DJ voice when you first started on the radio. Hit us with that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. By the way, to put it in context, my buddies and I, this is back in the time when you had cell phones, but just starting to have cell phones. Right. And they would hear me go on the air because they were listening to the radio and they would blow me up on my Nokia. So it's blaring in the background as I'm trying to do my stop set. But it went a little something like this. Classic Rock, Big Dog 97.9. You're rocking with the Maverick in the AM. It is 84 in Webb City, 74 in Joplin. We are on a 30-minute rock block coming up with the Leonard Skinner and, of course, everybody's favorite, Inagata Davida by Iron Butterfly. Why am I doing that one? It's 17 minutes long. I got to smoke.
That's fantastic. So you were the Maverick?
I was the Maverick. I was the midnight to 5 a.m. guy. And they said, you probably should not use your real name. And that was good counsel. Right. But I remember the first night I walked in and my voice was still kind of finding its way. And this old crusty DJ, he's like, how's your voice? And I was like, I don't know, man, not great. And he goes, here. And he takes a half a pack of cigarettes out and hands them to me. And he says, smoke these during your stop sets and I'll put on some coffee. You'll sound fine. So I was back there smoking and eventually I was like, this is going to kill me.
So you got to jump ahead now. Tell us, how did you get in the mattress business and what was your first industry job then?
So the weird turn of events was I was in Joplin, Missouri whenever the 2011 tornado hit.
Oh, yeah.
And I was working at a marketing agency and I remember everybody springs into action, because, 160 plus people died. A third of the city got wiped out. They took more debris out of that city than the World Trade Centers combined, 3 times more debris. That's how bad that tornado was. And so at this marketing agency, I'd helped them start a production company. And so I ended up in the back of a truck for 3 days filming for FEMA and just documenting and things like that. And so long story short, I left my job and we started something called Rebuild Joplin, which basically combined all the resources and all the needs because everybody's cleaning out their closets, filling up trucks with water bottles, but getting people those resources was really clunky. And so we were managing 75 plus volunteers using technology in between and then getting all those resources to the people. And it was just such a life-changing thing that I left and worked there with me and my friends that started it. And then on the backside of that, one of the funders, Brent Beshore, who had raised a bunch of money through United Way in Columbia, Missouri, I met him and he had an ad agency and he had this client that he needed help with. And so after my tenure wrapped up at Rebuild Joplin, and we rebuilt or remodeled 180 homes, which I thought was a great number because that's a true turnaround.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And so on the backside of that, he offered me an opportunity to come manage Leggett and Platt, that account. And so they needed help with their marketing. And so we were external agency resources. And I remember getting into it and thinking, oh man, every kid's dream, like, let's market some squiggly wire.
Yeah.
And then I got into it and it was like, oh my gosh, this is the foundation of health and wellness. Like, this is the object. You have a longer and more direct relationship than any other object you'll purchase in your whole life. And so I really, especially having been in the marketing agency world where you're doing everything from political campaigns to casinos, I really wasn't wired to not do something that I felt passionate about. And I really felt a gravitation toward health and wellness. And so I got into this industry and met so many nice people, and it just grabbed me.
So let's talk about kind of if there was an aha moment that did grab you. I mean, you came out of a really cool industry. I mean, first of all, I mean, where you're the man as a DJ, and then, you know, on camera, that's pretty cool. And then you go in marketing, which is, you know, you're out thinking and, you know, but then you get into springs and something grabs you at selling springs. What the heck was that aha moment?
You know, I think it was a combination of moments that compounded into a specific direction, because I think for the first 12, 18 months, it was bedding boot camp. You know, you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off and trying to figure out who's who and how this industry stacks up and works. And that's one of the beautiful things about it is I continue to learn new things.
Right.
I mean, everything from hosting events for the mattress industry to my overstocks business, which is it's sort of seasonal in nature. There are all these different parts and pieces of the industry that allow you to have a true career path and a journey, as long as you are a student. And I think probably the coolest thing that really grabbed me and showed me how much you could do was when we got to work on injecting the term hybrid into the mattress industry. And so I just remember, you know, having all these conversations about, like, you know, springs and foam. You know, Tempur-Pedic was taking market share left and right from Leggett and Platt. Like, it was Pac-Manning away. They were spending hundreds of millions of dollars to say springs are rusty and squeaky and foam is great, and which wasn't true. But Leggett wouldn't spend, or didn't have the direct-to-consumer relationship to spend that kind of money. And so the whole idea bubbled up about, like, oh, you know, hybrids. And I remember Mark Quinn, like, had this idea, like, hybrid golf clubs and hybrid cars. It's like two things coming together to make one thing better. And so I remember we would have these deep conversations, like, what is in the industry the conversation around springs and foam? And it went like this. Foam said, "You suck." And then springs looked back at foam and said, "No, you suck." And I'm like, that's the worst comeback of all time.
Right.
And so instead of saying you're bad and I'm great, it was like, well, springs and foam had been used together for a long time to make really great mattresses. Why not just come up with some language that showed that combination and showed that connection? And so I remember doing a sweep of all Google keyword search terms. There was zero mention of hybrid in relation to mattresses. Then we did a full audit of furniturettoday.com. So we essentially scraped the entire site and looked for the term hybrid, and it had never been used. And so there was basically a 12-month campaign that involved everything from an initial blog post on Q's Views. That's how it all started. Just a little simple blog post, all the way up through working with Second City Communications out of Chicago, the famous comedy house, working with comedians and writers and a production crew and actors to come up with the Get Hybrid mattress rap video. And the whole thinking there was sort of like a Super Bowl commercial. You want that big anchor piece of content that can really take people's guessers and interrupt them. But you want to build and atomize that content to get lots and lots of mileage, press releases, extra videos, lots of little social and snackable content, earned media through the press, using it at events. So we really put a lot of strategic thought into how do you break this apart and splinter it into dozens and dozens of moments that you can create throughout a year. And I remember going to my first conference 3 or 4 months after we launched this, and people were arguing about, no, hybrids have been around forever. We invented hybrids. And we're all just sitting back going, this is perfect. Yeah. We don't care who takes credit for it. We just care that it gets defined as fabric encased coils with specialty foam, because that was in Leggett's interest, fabric wrapped coils. And we didn't care who argued about it as long as somebody adopted the term. And my documented goal was, I want a major mattress manufacturer to use the term hybrid to describe their products in national advertising. I'm sitting on my sofa in Columbia, Missouri. It's snowing outside, and the Sealy hybrid commercial comes on TV 12 months after we launched this campaign. And I said, it's on. And guess what happened? Guess what happened from a financial standpoint? For the next 9 out of 10 quarters, Springs eroded foam's market share. So literally, Leggett started taking market share back away from foam. And this led to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars in incremental shareholder value and revenue for the company. And I just sat back and thought to myself, this is so cool that we were able to not only do something that made such an impact on the shareholders and on the company, but also it was simpler for the consumer. And if we can make this mattress buying process more easy to navigate, we're going to get more people in the market.
Man, it's crazy. We're sitting here talking to the guy that was involved in creating the word hybrid, which we have people working for us today who think that's been there forever.
Yeah.
But what, and you know, I'm gonna go back a little bit to Leggett and Platt. Explain a little bit about Leggett and Platt, because again, even for me in the industry forever, they've always been behind the scenes but they're massive. And some of the things that you did there, again, they allowed you to create this hybrid, but a lot of other things as well. But give us a little bit about Leggett and Platt.
Well, first of all, let's start right there with the hybrid concept. I mean, you're talking about a company that saw itself as blacksmiths, essentially, and they allowed us to spend 6 figures to make this crazy rap video with springs and foam, gold chains. You know, it says a lot about just the support that they were willing to give and saying, hey, we don't know all about this marketing stuff, but we're willing to put our stamp on it. But Leggett invented the bed spring in 1883 in Carthage, Missouri, in the old plow works building. So they were making plows, the ones that are made of metal and dragged behind a donkey or an ox and cut through the earth. That's what they were making. And they eventually invented the bed spring because they saw an opportunity and created an invention and flipped the switch on the plows and started making more and more springs. And so they invented it right there in Carthage in 1883. And that company grew. When I was there, it was over $5 billion, 22,000 employees worldwide. A lot of that, the crown jewel, was the bedding division, but they were into aerospace tubing, industrial materials, recliner mechanisms. They had a lot of different business units. And so it's just a phenomenal story of, Harry Cornell and his family just, growing that business into something there's an absolute juggernaut in the industry and beyond.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, they're a huge company. You were there how long, Mark?
I was there for 5 years. I ran marketing for 5 years. And then before that, I was on the outside as an agency partner for a couple of years.
Gotcha. And then you shifted gears and you kept climbing. What was your next big move that set you on your path as a leader and innovator?
Next big move after Leggett and Platt was taking the CEO role with Englander Mattress Company. Mm-hmm. And so Kevin Toman, RIP, great guy. He was 72 at the time, and he was ready to hang up the cleats and leave the field. And they were trying to find somebody that could refresh that brand, infuse their product development with some new life, and really launch a national line. I mean, these licensing organizations can be very challenging because you have a lot of different individual owners that own the brand. And so that gives them the rights to manufacture and sell that brand into certain markets that are predefined. And so I remember walking in and you had like these 4 different pinwheels and into the showroom in Vegas. And like, if y'all were coming in, I'd be like, Harry, Jim, sorry, we can't sell you these 3, but we can sell you that one. And so it created that confusing experience. But I remember being there, and the first thing I do with most brands and businesses is I just go out and kind of beat the carpet and learn, see what falls out. And I remember hopping on the road with our sales reps and customers, trying to figure out what Englander stood for so that maybe we had something we could lean into. And I still think there was a bigger opportunity, but Englander was owned by a lot of different companies over the years, but it was owned by Goodyear Rubber Tire Company in 1950. And so that rubber was not only used in tires, they were experimenting with that, and they came up with rubber latex.
Yeah.
And Englander was the first company to put latex in a mattress, and I found out it was still known for that. So we really leaned into latex. It's a component I love. It's natural. It comes from a rubber tree. It's buoyant. It's elevated. And so that became a big hallmark of our story. And also just telling the story. It had been around since 1894, founded by Max Englander in New York City. And so we leaned into that and put up lots of timelines and cool stuff. But it was a great experience. But sadly, right as we launched the new national line, first national line in 20 years, refreshed the showroom, had all new marketing assets, new website, all the stuff you need to really represent your great brand. 2.5 months after that, COVID hit. So after we launched in Vegas, it was this crazy period for over 18 months where our factories were just blowing and going. If you had product, you were winning. And none of us could have, I think, predicted what would happen in the mattress industry, which was that huge exponential record-setting growth.
I got to ask you this question out of the blue since you brought up COVID. That was such a weird time. I don't know if I navigated it very well, honestly, as a leader. But how did you feel you did during COVID, and what did you learn out of that messy time?
Well, the first thing I learned was on the personal level. I think we all learned health and wellness was and is the most important thing. If you don't have that, man, everything else just goes on mute. And then it's your family and their health and wellness. And I say health and wellness for yourself first, because if you can't be there for them, if you're not well, there's not much you can do to enjoy your family or help them. And so health and wellness and family, and really, really refocusing on the things that you find important and your values. That was big. My role in the middle of all that, I was trying to figure it out. I think like a lot of us, like how can we be of most use, and then also keep our health going. And I figured out that, with the podcast, it was becoming a source of inspiration and information. And so not just the day to day, it was bringing people together to talk about what was happening in the government and how that would affect your business and how that could help you. How are you navigating, allowing people to be in your stores, creating shopping experiences that are, privatized. So just gathering up that information and those best ideas and disseminating it. And then in the middle of that, a lot of time on my hands, I went from traveling half the year down to zero. And so started cranking on the book, Come Back to Bed, which was how to drive foot traffic to your store and, build a brand people want to fall in love with. So even that exercise became something that, was able to be shared in those moments, but obviously it was a living piece that went beyond that. So those are kind of some of the main takeaways, just focusing on health and wellness and family, and then becoming that source of information. And that's really continued today with the podcast and the events and things like that.
Yeah. And then Come Back to Bed, that we give that out a bunch still. So dude, you've accomplished, just a ton at a very young age in your career. Is there anything you credit or any advice you could give to some of these younger guys getting in, young guys and gals in our business, in our stores? We have a lot of sales associates that listen to our show. Any advice for them to, help them look forward into a career that could be as enjoyable as yours?
Yeah, it's a great question and a big question. And I say it's a great question because it's something that came up at Sleep Summit, and I really got it from Katie Law and Greg Law when they're owners of Sweet Dreams Mattress and Furniture in Mooresville out in Lake Norman, North Carolina, which is just north of Charlotte. And one of the things Greg mentioned to me was sort of this idea that we as an industry can create a career path and not just a hop on the job stop. And to do that, I think the first thing that has to happen is, if you don't have a vision, it's important for you to be with leaders that have a vision of what this is and what it can be. And I think that vision has to be tied to a purpose. And, I mentioned earlier, like when I was at Leggett and I thought they were bending wire, and then I realized, wow, sleep is the foundation of health and wellness. If you get your good foundation correct, and you're doing it consistently, your mental health, your fitness, your nutrition, your relationships, your emotions, they all benefit on this foundation of health and wellness. You take sleep out of that equation, they all suffer, all of them.
Right.
And so you have so much purpose behind the business that you're in. And if you remind yourself of that every day, you're changing lives. And when you're changing lives, you're not just working a job or getting a spiff. You are helping people solve real, major, angst-producing problems in their life. And think about this too. When somebody walks in your store, that person is probably and most likely going through some sort of transition in their life. Maybe they're buying a house or selling a house. Maybe mom's moving in, or grandma passed away, or kids are off to college, divorce, new marriage, relatives coming in for the holidays and they haven't visited in 5 years, and I want to make sure I have a good mattress. All of these things have one thing in common with them, and that is uncertainty. And whenever you're feeling uncertain and you're coming in to buy a mattress, the underlying emotion there is fear. And what do we want when we're scared? We want an assurance of an outcome. We want to know things are going to be all right. So if you can approach your position with that empathy of you're there to help give them an assurance of an outcome and really help them solve some problem and ask those good questions, and then that's going to be tied to the purpose behind providing the foundation for health and wellness, that is going to be the ripples and the tremors and the internal waves that are going to give you the passion to go out and do your job every day and inspire others. And I would also say, if you see that in somebody else and you're not quite there yet, be the first follower. Be the first follower. Every leader needs the first follower.
Yes, I love
great
that
stuff. That's just great stuff. Thank you for that. I'm glad I asked that question, because that is a beautiful answer, and it's so true. We do something special.
As you can tell, I'm passionate about it too. I'm like, man.
You are, man. You're driving it.
I probably had to tell myself that for a few years before I was like, oh my gosh, like I kept saying it. I was like, no, this, and as you say those things about the purpose and the foundation of health and wellness, and then you watch the way people respond to that with their own stories, or you even watch people outside of the industry say, yeah, absolutely. It reinforces that. So sometimes you got to take those thoughts in your head and repeat them, and then put them out in the world and be vulnerable, give the world a chance to react to that.
Yeah. Now as a leader, you've led a lot of teams, across marketing, media, manufacturing, events. Is there one leadership principle that's never failed you, no matter what?
I was out in Santa Barbara, California, and I had a chance to meet Alain Clinet. And Alain is the founder of Ergo Motion. And he's a magical guy. In the 70s, he created Clinet Coachworks. Clinet Coachworks was selling $100,000 cars in the late 70s, even made a car for the King of Morocco. And that business got into the 80s, and interest rates and crazy stuff happened. And, eventually he's outside of Santa Barbara, taking an adjustable base and welding it up and inventing. He was an industrial engineer. And as we celebrated that 20th anniversary, I had a chance to talk to Mr. Clinet, and I said, "What's gotten you so far? What's gotten you here? Like, what are your guiding principles?" And one of them that he mentioned has been the guiding principle that I hadn't quite articulated. But all three matter. He said, "Be kind, be honorable, and be bold. Take risks." And one of these in particular, I believe in kindness. It's really important to me. I believe in taking risks. And I think those two things, I hope, are apparent with the way I navigate the world. But the word honorable, I hadn't really spent time to think about what that meant. And just before Sleep Summit, that was tested. Like, am I doing the honorable thing? Because I was, and I can't go into like deep details, but I can tell you this. I was presented with a very difficult request. And to my business, it will wipe away tens and tens of thousands of dollars. And I denied the request because it was the honorable thing to do. And my response in this very strange situation was, let's sleep on it. Let's talk again tomorrow. And I want to make sure I understand this. And the next day, the request was the same, and it was unreasonable. And I said, I found that if I run my decisions through my values, I always make the right decision. So understand what your values are. And we value abundance. We value family. We're the fam.
Right.
We value being honorable, and we value transparency. Those are a few of our values. And so whenever you start navigating the world and have strange requests or requests that maybe don't pass the sniff test or feel a little bit off, you don't have to make a big decision. You just have to be like, okay, I'm going to filter this through my values. Does it go against any of them? It's a simple no. It's a simple no. And so I would say to you, number one, get clear on your values. And part of that is getting clear on your days become your life. What's your perfect day? If you're not living perfect days, man, you better write that exercise down. And when you get clear on your perfect day and it matches up with your values, decisions just get easy. Decisions about who to let into your life and who to, maybe stiff arm in your life. It just gets easy.
Golden nuggets left and right, Harry. This is incredible. Thank you, Mark. Wow.
Such good stuff.
Well, I think Alain Clinet for he's a guy of such wisdom, and sometimes, things wash over you in a new way. Maybe you're sitting there listening to the podcast, taking a walk, driving in your car, and you've heard, I've heard that before. Maybe it hits you in a new way. And that's why it's important to keep listening, keep having conversations, keep going to events and having conversations with people that may not be like you, because it might hit you in a new way.
Yeah. And the timing isn't right sometimes, but when the timing is, how do you say that? When the student is ready, the teacher appears, or how do you say that?
That's it.
But it's so true. So, hey, let's jump to the fam, because your career was on a trajectory, flying to the moon, and you decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to stop. I'm going to create the fam. First of all, tell us a little bit about that. What the fam stands for, how you came up with the name, and then, what was your original vision and how you feeling about it now? That's like 8 questions in one. I apologize.
Okay. So we'll start with.
This is our 4-hour podcast.
Buckle up. We're going to be here a while.
Man.
I talked about vision. I'll say this. Sometimes you have a sense of where you're going and it's night, but you put your headlights on and you can make the whole trip that way. I think that's been the fam a little bit. It's like, I know I'm on the right road, but I can only see as far as my headlights at night, but I know we can make the whole trip this way.
Oh man, that's a great explanation.
Golden nuggets.
And that kind of goes back to what I say, action reveals the answers, man. When you're sitting on the sidelines and thinking this thing through and thinking it to death, sometimes getting into gear and going is what's going to reveal what questions to ask, what's along that roadway, what the billboards look like, where the driveways are, deer running across. You're just not going to know anything if you're just sitting there doing nothing. And that's why we talk about being bold and taking risks. But to go back to the fam, so what I'll give you the quick 4 steps here. The podcast led to meetups at events like Market.
Mm-hmm.
Meetups led to the fam, and the fam led to Sleep Summit. And so I started the podcast at Leggett Platt. And the whole idea was Leggett did not have a voice with the retail sales associate. They were so far removed upstream. They didn't make finished mattresses at the time, that they wanted to have a voice with RSA to talk about why fabric encased coils were great. And when we launched, nano coil and micro coils, having a voice where you could at least represent your side of the story, so it wasn't all about foam. And so how do you do that? Well, you got to add value. You got to have something that's meaningful to the retail community. And so that went along, and people were like, hey, we listened to the podcast. Let's get together at the Leggett space. And we started doing these little, 20 people meetups, 50 people meetups. And eventually we're like, wow, it's kind of like a podcast, but it's a little digital media company. There's a little bit of an influencer model there. So what do we do with it? And I was like, I really wanted to sort of put it under a brand that was a community. And I was like, we talk about our industry as a family and our businesses as a family. And I was like, man, it'd be really cool if we could call ourselves the fam. And I was like, oh, okay, let's do that. It means for all things mattress. And to be super inclusive, we could always say it means furniture and mattress.
Right.
And then if you really, and I was like, if we really, really want to open the aperture, we could be furniture, appliances, mattress.
Yeah.
And so the meetups, so the podcast and the meetups and the fam that being established as like the website and the home for all this other content, it eventually led to these events. And it started off with a guy calling me from Wisconsin named Mark Desjardins. He's with Avocado now. Shout out to Mark.
Yeah.
And he wanted to he didn't want to swing golf clubs anymore and like clink glasses. He's like, I want to do something fun. He goes, I heard that you mountain bike on your podcast. And I was like, yeah. I was like, why don't you guys just come to Bentonville? It's the mountain biking capital of the world. That's our tagline. And let's mountain bike. And so it was me, him, and Matt Fowler from Sleep Made. And just those two guys came up and were like, Mark called it the Dirt Nap Dream Conference of 3. And I was like, dude, you know that dirt nap means you're dead. So we kind of walked away like, let's call it Dream Camp. And so Dream Camp was a small event. We did one in Sacramento, and then we did one in Bentonville, and then Key West, and then Palm Springs, and then San Antonio. And we just announced we're going to Santa Barbara. And that led to people being like, well, I want to come, but we had to keep it small because it was more like an executive retreat. And that's what led me and Tara and the fam to launch Sleep Summit, which we want it to be the most dynamic growth summit in the mattress industry. Because honestly, guys, like I'll call it like I see it. I went to a lot of events over the years and I was just waiting for the eulogy to be read. I was like, this feels like a funeral. I'm like, we should be in the most inspirational industry with the most energy on the planet. And so I just said, I'm like, all right, hot shot. You think you can do it better? Do it. And we put a lot of just our heart, soul, creativity around thinking it through for everybody that attends. And we want it to be something where people walk away reinvigorated about what we do, not, upset because the economy is bad. And so that's kind of the general story about it going from a podcast to meetups to the fam for all things mattress to now Dream Camp and Sleep Summit.
Well, let's talk about, we just finished Sleep Summit. And this last one was incredible. I mean, absolutely electric. I mean, the speakers, the energy, the connections. I mean, do you and Tara feel pressure to keep topping yourselves each year? Because I think it's just better and better every year. And I can't imagine what's coming up next year.
Me and you both.
We're 4 days from wrap. I mean, come on.
Well, we do have the dates, October 6th through 9th. So mark your calendars. We do feel the pressure to top it each year because our philosophy is pretty simple. If we're going to do it, we might as well make it awesome. And so this year, I'll say, last year, I finished on the final day and I was ready for a redo. I saw so many things I thought we could do better, that I could do better, that I could fix, that I knew I could get my arms around. So we always want to one up it. And so, this year we wanted to set the stage. The economy is in a really weird place. So we brought in this amazing economist, Dr. Chris Keel, to kind of set the stage about what's media noise versus what is actually happening. What's a headline versus what's a true trend. And then, we had speakers that gave us like really mattress industry specific stuff. And then we had Dr. Ellie Gottlieb from sleep.ai. And so, we want to up our game every single year. And honestly, we're the fam. We want to bring more people to this amazing reunion each and every year.
Yeah. And again, I saw that when I was there. I'm like, this has gotten so good that I put my arm around Tara and said, you have to feel like this is becoming almost an obligation to do this for people because of what it means to them.
Right.
I'm like, that's a big deal. And she looked at me like, but what a great obligation to bring it together. So that first vision of yours, just bringing people together, man, you guys have really nailed it. And I love being a part of the community, which is something that you worked on. We've never done that. I mean, where you go hang out with all your competitors,
right,
in this industry. We never wanted to do that. We wanted to beat them. We didn't want them to know who we were. We wanted to sneak in and take market share. We didn't want to talk to them. So it's totally different. So is there any other nugget you want to mention from this year's? Anything else really stood out for you that you saw impact, maybe impacted you as well?
I'll tell you what I worked on the most leading up to this event. And I think there's a business principle for all of anybody listening. And you're going to remember this as soon as I say it. Probably the number one thing we worked on that took a lot of granular focus was all the transitions that happen in a show like that. And you might remember Jesse Cole from the Savannah Bananas was on my podcast years ago before he got big.
Yeah,
and
this was the first show I ever listened to yours. Harry insisted.
The first show. And what did he say? He said, you win in the transitions. And what he meant by that was you're at a baseball game. He was hosting a baseball show. And so a transition at a baseball game is always like from inning to inning. And usually it's like play a little music, pass out some peanuts, good luck. But they put on a show in between every half inning. And they put on a show from the time you show up in the parking lot and there's a parking lot penguin. I mean, they're going on dates in the middle of their games with their players, and they're passing out roses for grandma beauty pageants and raising up babies to the Lion King music. And there's a breakdancing first base coach. I mean, this is insane. But the thing is, like if you pay attention to your transitions, that's where things fall apart. And so we were like, okay, like we're going through it. We have like this giant spreadsheet that's like at 28 seconds, this happens. And then we're going to play this video. And then this music comes up and this person walks on. And then, okay, how do we get from here to here? That's weird because we got to bring stuff up on stage. So thinking through those moments and really doing that hard work, which it's hard. It's really difficult. I don't want to say it's hard, but it's like, it takes focus. Let's put it that way. You have the same thing happening in your stores. From the moment they step out of their car until they walk to that front door, that is a transition. What are they going to see? What are they going to feel? What are they going to hear? What are they going to experience? Maybe nothing. I don't know, but maybe something. From the moment they open the door, let's take this one. This is a scary transition. From the moment they open the door until the moment they engage with a salesperson, that is a big transition. So what are they going to see, hear, feel? What is that experience going to be like? How can you introduce surprise and delight? How can you bring in Brandy's tortoise so that people are disarmed? We talked about that, Harry. Brandy's got the tortoise. So if you think about all these micro transitions in your business and you engineer smoothness, surprise, delight, compassion, empathy, warmth, if you engineer that, it will fundamentally change your business. And then you have to do it every time. It may be like from door to desk or from parking lot to parking lot. It may be like 30 different transitions. But if you ingrain those in yourself and your team and you know what to do, from there, you know your scales. You're going to be playing jazz. You know, it's like put the team on the court. You guys have played together since you're in first grade, and now you're in college. You're playing pickup basketball. You don't have to think about the plays. The plays are there.
So good.
That's a big one.
And the transitions and adding fun to them, like Jesse Cole, making it fun. We try to do that here, right, Jimmy?
Absolutely. Try. Fun to us.
At Sleep Summit, I was like, you know what? It's a transition from the time you open the show until like I hand it off to the first speaker. And I was trying to get people to do sing-alongs. And we kind of got there, but you take a risk. And we were doing Boot Scoot Boogie, and then we were doing Wagon Wheel. And I was like, come on, guys, let's go a little bit more. But everybody did a good job.
Speaking of fun over there at Sleep Summit, so Katie Law, the last night at the final event, had a great band, and we bumped into each other at the bar, and I'm like, Katie, I love your hat. And she's wearing this hat right here. If you the light can, there we go.
It says, sorry about my husband.
Yes. And I just start laughing. I'm like, that is freaking hilarious. Because, Greg's such a great guy, but she's so apologizing for him, right? So yesterday, my wife and I get back from Austin, seeing the grandkids, and there's a box outside. I grab the box, go inside. It's for Marsha. She opens it. That's the hat. So I was telling Katie, that is hilarious. Marsha would freaking love that hat. I mean, and Katie sent her the hat. I mean, that fast. Just sent it to her. So shout out to Katie, making it
Katie's
fun.
Good as gold, man. We had the all male review this year from a speaker standpoint, and Katie did the panel with us, and we had this whole gig worked out where she was going to take my seat and kind of turn the panel, and she was going to be the host of the panel. And she did just an amazing job. And she was the one that was talking about, renaming their sales people from RSAs to sales and marketing associates.
Yeah.
Because they really put all their people on camera. They're a cast of characters, and they wanted them to be the star of the show. And it's talk about creating an incredible culture and shining a bright light on your people. They're not scared to do that. And I think that's one of the top questions they field is like, what is it like putting your people on camera? Like, we're scared to do that. And they're like, oh, we're just a cast of characters. That's who we are. Part of our culture.
Yep. Tons of fun.
Awesome. So is Greg.
Harry, I think it's time for us to go to the rapid fire round.
Let's do it. Let's just.
You ready, Mark?
Right.
Go ahead, Harry.
All right. If you were a retail sales associate today, what's one thing you do to sell more beds right now?
Ask more questions. Ask more questions.
Yes.
And
love it.
And shut up and listen. I've said this for a long time. Your secret superpower is your ability to ask open-ended questions and truly listen.
Brilliant. Couldn't have said it better. All right, Mark, what's one mattress myth you wish we could retire forever?
Ooh. This is going to be spicy. Are you sure?
Go for it. We can edit it out.
Look, I think for most of human history, we've slept on nature, and we're sleeping on a bunch of things that are made out of crude oil. That's where they come from. I don't think it's good. I don't think it's good long term.
So what? Let's move fast away from that one. No. What's one company, in our industry, outside our industry, that really inspires you now?
Liquid Death. It's a water company. They make water. It's the same water that pretty much everybody else makes, but in a sea of sameness, brand wins. And they've done an incredible job of treating themselves as an entertainment and media company that sells water. And they're selling over $1.3 billion worth of it. And it's the same water that everybody else has. But they do two things that I've noticed. Number one, they have an enemy. The enemy is sugar drinks and plastic. They put everything in metal cans. And then beyond that, they understand that you have to grab people's attention or nobody will care. And so that has to be a consistent rhythm of your business. The other sidebar thing they do is I love collaborations and activation. So they collaborate with Depends, and they made what they call the pit diaper. So if you're in a mosh pit at a rock concert and you drink a bunch of water, you don't want to have to leave the mosh pit to go take a leak. And so they made this leathery, hilarious Depends diaper. And of course, what is Depends capturing? It's capturing water. It's capturing pee. And so it was a nice connection to the brand, but it activated maybe a part of their audience that wasn't paying attention. So I love collaborations where products become the marketing, and then the marketing activates dormant audiences that might not be thinking about water or a mattress for that matter.
Liquid Death.
Yeah, I love going to a concert, and getting one of those cans of Liquid Death, and you come back to your group of friends and they're like, oh, what kind of new beer did you get? Oh, it's just water. It's got such cool branding on the can. But I haven't seen the Depends piece yet, so that's interesting at my age, Harry.
I'm ignoring it. I'm ignoring it.
All right, Mark. So what's a book, a podcast, or a show that you're into lately and you can't say your own?
Besides the bed buzz?
Well, besides bed buzz.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I have become the de facto AI guy within the mattress industry. So I've been teaching a ton of people about AI, how to unlock enterprise value from that. I've taught the entire Sit and Sleep executive team. Of course, that company in Southern California is a juggernaut. King Coil. I've worked with these amazing Mattress Firm franchise guys, Bluebell, and many others. I spoke at Nationwide Marketing Group. Yeah. And so there's a good podcast to keep up with AI called Marketing Against the Grain. And so that's a really good one. There are these guys that have this podcast called, I think it's called, MFM, My First Million. And they do some stuff on AI that allows you to keep up with some of the thought leaders in that space. So those are a couple of good ones. And then from a book standpoint, Derek Ritzel with Bluebell actually recommended a book called Strategy of the Dolphin. And I've really been enjoying it. I've been a bit busy right now as I've worked my way through it with Sleep Summit. But Strategy of the Dolphin essentially identifies these different personality types in business, a carp, a shark, and a dolphin. But the whole idea behind it is, even though the shark is the apex predator, the shark is only scared of one other marine life animal, and it's the dolphin. The dolphin will kill the shark, but they don't do it alone. They kill them together. And so it's a whole idea about this idea of abundance and working together and seeing the world differently than you think you see it. So it's an old book. You got to find it on like the Amazons, I think.
All right, one more. What was your craziest or most memorable sale ever? We always ask that question.
I would say if it was crazy, it wouldn't have necessarily directly involved a mattress, but it was whenever I sold Leggett Platt on bringing in 2 9,000-pound Asian elephants to demonstrate the durability of a mattress component.
You got to tell us that story. That sounds interesting. My gosh.
What? Too big?
So anybody out there listening, you probably know the company Purple. That gel, the exact same gel that's in it, used to be blue, and it was licensed by Leggett Platt. So when I was brought in to run marketing, they're like, what do we do with this? And so my first stop, of course, was I'm going to go learn about it, who's selling it, and how are they selling it. And so we had a few customers putting, it was called Somnigel at the time, into these mattresses. And they couldn't even really figure out how to sell it. But anybody that was doing well with it, the story was all about durability. You could take that stuff and stretch it to 22 times its resting state, and it would always elastic back in. It was polymer. And it had only 22% contact surface area. So it was more air than anything else. But durability was how they were selling it. And so I thought to myself, how can we show durability? I'm like, well, let's get the universal symbol of heaviness, like maybe like an anvil. I remember the Samsonite suitcase commercial with the gorilla just beating the crap out of it, and it was showing its durability. And I thought about that, and I was like, oh, elephants are the universal symbol of heaviness. And so I put together this campaign, and I went to pitch it internally at Leggett, and the guy that ran the Idea Center at the time, which was this huge facility where they did everything from product development to testing and rollators and Cornell tests and on it went, pressure mapping. It was a huge facility, a couple 100 yards long, and they shut me down. And so I was so convinced that this might be the only way that I went kind of around this guy and my boss, Perry Davis at the time. Perry's a legend in the industry. Basically pulled out the Perry card, and he's like, no, we're doing it. And he gave me his support, and I'll never forget that. And so, yeah, the guy showed up. I hired one elephant, and he pulls up in a semi truck, and these were educational elephants. They had been in the circus before circuses had retired. And so they're just living out their life. And like, he likes to get them out and do stuff because they still would walk together and things like that. And so he shows up and he pulls me aside and he goes, hey, I hope you don't mind, but I brought a second elephant. I go, oh, okay, what's going on? He said, I go, do I have to pay you more? He goes, no. I go, what's going on then? And he said, the other one just behaves better when it has. I was like, whoa, we have behavior issues I didn't know about?
Oh, no. 9,000-pound behavior issues.
Yeah. And so they hop out, and there's no fence around them. There's no leash. That you just have to trust that they're not going to run away. And so they went tail to trunk, 200 yards, walking through the Idea Center. I didn't realize how many people worked there. It was a Thursday, and all the people that worked there that had kids, they kept them out of school, and they were all there filming. And I was like,
yeah. Oh, no.
And so they proceeded to take the gel and like stand on it and sit on it and mess with it, and it always popped back to its original shape. And they unleashed a fury of dumps and urine everywhere that I was picking up, running a mop bucket the whole day. It was special. And so after that, we put together a cool video and a campaign. We just couldn't get it to go, but we couldn't get it to go until Purple took it back. Well, before they called it Purple, they took it back and they got a marketing team on it. They dyed the gel purple. They built the brand around it, and they did some of the most creative, innovative marketing I've seen with the egg drop test. And, that's the history. But that was probably my best sale of all time, is selling them. I sold them on one elephant, so a little bait and switch.
You got to. Okay, Mark. So I didn't want to end the show without having a little bit of time on AI, because you are kind of the AI guy. You kind of picked that role because you saw how impactful it was for yourself, and now you're helping share it, with us, the industry, and just anybody. Give us a little bit of a quick overview, of some of the impactful things, and then you've got an accelerator lab coming up, and yeah, man, talk us a little bit about AI, because it's amazing.
Yeah, so AI for me is one of those force multipliers. I mean, it really is the most game-changing technology that we've ever experienced in all of human history. And even the CEO of Google said it might be more important than the discovery of fire and electricity. And think about that, fire and electricity. And so to understand what's happening, and number one, it's going to take away fear, but number two, it's going to allow you to be relevant and then harness some of the power of these tools. My analogy is, there's a movie called Iron Man. It's a superhero movie. And in Iron Man 1, Tony Stark has this suit and he's a superhero. But by Iron Man 3, a lot of people have the suit. So if we all have that same suit, that same Iron Man suit, who's going to be the superhero at that point? Are we all just going to battle and nobody ever wins? No. If everybody has the suit, it's the one who uses it the best, that knows the most about it. If I give you the keys to a Lamborghini and all you know how to do is roll down the windows, you don't really know how to use that powerful piece of technology.
Right.
So a lot of people have the keys to this Lamborghini, and they know how to turn it on, kinda, and they know how to roll the windows up and down. They haven't even put it into they haven't even gotten it out of park. They don't even have it in first gear. And so the skills that you need to understand and start to master, the number one skill is what I call becoming a prompt boss. And other people call it prompt engineering, but this is essentially giving ChatGPT and these other AI models really good instructions and then refining those results until you get the outputs you want. Good instructions and then refine. If it doesn't work the first time, don't give up and move along. If you pull the string on the back of the dolly and it stopped talking, maybe it just needs new batteries. Don't give up. And a lot of people do. They treat it like a toy and not a tool. And so becoming a good prompt boss is really being a good, clear, robust communicator on the front end. And that prompt, that clear communication is going to allow that technology to come back and bring you good results. It's just like being a good boss or a bad boss. So much of this is not unlike talking to humans. And I say that because even though it's a computer, it's a robot, it's all these different things, a lot of the context, a lot of the knowledge base it has was written by humans. And so it's like if it's pulling a bunch of information about Ernest Shackleton, the famous explorer, it's getting that information from a human that wrote it. And so as a good prompt boss, you need to, just like you would with an employee, give really good instructions, ask it if I was clear, what else can I tell you so you can go do good work? And then if it comes back and it wasn't quite spot on, you don't fire that person. As a good boss, you're going to say, hey, you didn't quite hit the mark in these areas. What other questions do you have? And you provide more rich input so I can go do that work on your behalf. Now, in my classes, I take you through a 3-part framework: assistant, automation, and agents. The assistant is what people think of as ChatGPT. It's the most powerful assistant on the planet. It knows basically all the world's information. It can take on any role, whether that's attorney or comic book superhero or mattress podcast host. Whatever role you give it, marketing expert, operational expert, whatever role you give it, it can take on that domain of expertise and begin to do work on your behalf. It's a creator. That's what's different about generative AI. It creates things. And so understanding how to give it a role, give it goals and details and context is going to be the skill that informs automation and agentics. And without going too deep on it, once you get that assistant piece right and your communication is buttoned up and you know how to talk to the robot, once you release those prompts into your automation sequences or into your agents that do work on your behalf with your tools, it's going to be doing stuff without you knowing it. So you getting your prompts and your inputs right on the front end become even more important so it doesn't go rogue. So that's sort of the foundational skill we teach. And then we talk about our frameworks for automation. Automation is setting up technology to do a task for you. And then agents are actually autonomous employees, essentially, that you empower with your tools. And so we take you through, how do you identify areas of your business where you can apply automation thinking, you can apply agentic thinking, and really start to unlock enterprise value and empower your teams. And for leaders, I'll tell you this one thing. 95% of corporate AI initiatives to date have failed, completely failed. Only 5% are successful. One of the key things that's going to lead to your success is having it start at the top. You have to create a culture where there's consistency of surfacing your AI thinking, sharing your AI thinking at your weekly meeting, and identifying one specific thing that everybody can work on and get success under your belt. And then along the way, just use that assistant every single day, because having your hands in the clay is what's going to help you make the most beautiful pottery, not waiting.
How do people get more information about this accelerator lab that you're doing, Mark?
You know what? We'll put it up on thefam.com. So go to thefam.com and it'll be right up at the top. So we'll
when does it start?
It starts October 30th. So we're going for 6 weeks. We're going to do 6 weeks, taking that Thursday of Thanksgiving off. But it's about an hour. We'll do about an hour of class, and then I'm going to do about 20 minutes of like basically office hours right afterwards, so I can put a tidy bow. I guarantee your money back, because I know we're going to help you at least 10x your investment, and there are ways to measure that. But the other thing is, once we get going, the whole purpose of it is, I want you to learn AI, but I want you to go into 2026 being able to use your brain, okay? And I'm going to underline the A and the I in the word brain, okay? So I want you to have the tools and some of the foundational knowledge so that when you go into 2026, you're like, boom, this is my year of AI. It's going to help reduce stress, increase productivity, increase revenue, hopefully. But it's kind of like a 6-week setup to get you catapulted into 2026.
Yeah, man, this is so good. This show has been amazing. I just can't thank you enough. Is there anything that we didn't ask, Mark, that you wish more people talked about?
I wish more people, well, first of all, I was going to say I wish more people talked about you guys, but I think they kind of do. I just can't thank you guys enough for doing the Bed Buzz and your amazing team. Like, I love your team, and I know it starts at the top with your leadership crew. You guys are legends in the industry, probably outside of the industry. I know that you're legends with your family. I just love hanging out with you guys and doing all the stuff that we've done together. And I just appreciate you so much. And the reason I mention your team too is because it's so rare that to have a pretty large team and people are spread out, and every single person I interface with, they're absolutely incredible. Like you've figured out the secret sauce of becoming a magnet for amazing people and empowering them. And they're just fun. You can feel that they love what they do. So I just appreciate you guys. In terms of something that I feel like people should talk about more, I feel like things are changing in the industry, and I don't feel like any one particular voice is talking about what that change really means for the consumer and for the industry. The biggest change, and you guys are in the middle of it in a very strange way, is consolidation. Yeah. I mean, TSI and Mattress Firm are one company. They own most of Sherwood. They have a 7% stake in Purple. They just bought a minority share in Kingsdown. That's a lot of power concentrated in one place. And obviously the FCC voted 0-5 for that deal not to happen, saying that they were trying to kneecap their competition. Look, I think TSI in Mattress Firm, this is nothing about them as a great organization. This is about having some clarity about where things are headed. And for things to be on such a mute, I think we need to talk about it more. I think there need to be some stronger voices out there helping provide some signals to retailers, suppliers, to manufacturers, and even the consumer about, what this means for them. The consumer is less concerned, they buy a mattress once every, 8 years.
Yep.
And they don't exactly know always like what's supposed to be there and what the prices are, and prices change and things like that. But I think, for me, it's been, one of those monumental events that seems to be getting limited voice to it. It's getting plenty of attention. I know there are plenty of conversations behind the scenes, but I think it would be nice to understand the vision from TSI Mattress Firm a little more clearly. And I would encourage them to do that, because if you don't show up, they make you up. And like it or not, I mean, they are the industry now. I mean, if you think about it, Mike Magnuson did the math. 75% of all mattresses in the US that are made and or sold through the TSI Mattress Firm entity, 75% of all mattresses go through that organization in some way. So what does that mean? It means you are the industry. And it also means that anything happening in relation to the growth or the stagnation of the growth of the industry is their responsibility. Returns, landfills. I mean, you think about the consequences and how far this thing stretches out. I think it's better to have a conversation about it, because we're not going anywhere. All of us that love the industry, they're not going anywhere. They love the industry, but it would be better to, from a spirit of abundance and clarity, just understand where these things are headed a little bit.
Wow. That's a heck of an answer there. Very, very much so. And so Mark, this has been fantastic, man. I really appreciate you being on our show. You brought a lot of quality to the Bed Buzz today, and thank you for inspiring us. But personally, I really want to thank you, man, for what you're doing in the industry. You really are creating a community that I've never been a part of, but because of you, I am, and Tara and your team.
Yeah.
So, man, thank you so much, and thanks for spreading your wonderful love through our industry. It's fantastic.
It's an absolute pleasure and truly a joy. Like, we walk away from Sleep Summit, from all of our group stuff that we've done, just like hearts full. And I would just like to say also, if you're listening, I've had people come up to me and say, I've been in this industry 28 years and I've always had connections. I've never had community.
Yes.
We need it, because if you step out your front door and you look left and right and you see a dirty window there and a dirty window there, and you think that's the industry, it's not. There are people like you that are lit up, inspired, and fired and ready to roll each and every day. And you have to step away from your business and work on your business, so that you're not just in those four walls of an echo chamber worried about, Yahoo down the street.
Right.
This is a great industry, and there are so many amazing people. And I would encourage you to get out there and just be a part of it. Take that, if it feels like a risk, that's okay, because that's where growth happens. Get out there and get engaged. Reach out to Harry, reach out to Jimmy, and just be a part of it, because we want you here. Like this year's theme at Sleep Summit, it was wanted.
Wanted, yes.
And it was, you are wanted for your bold vision, your big ideas, your passion, your purpose. You are wanted. So don't be afraid to reach out. You can always find me on LinkedIn or go to thefam.com as well.
For sure. Mark, this has just been incredible. I mean, what an honor to get to spend time with you today. I mean, thank you so much for joining us. And you really, everything you do, you keep the industry fun, forward thinking, and then really, I think most importantly, you're building that community of leaders who don't just follow change, but they're driving it. So it's just been incredible. To all our listeners out there, stay creative, stay curious, and always remember to have fun and sell beds. Woo! You can bounce on it. That's your video, your song.
Dude.
All right, we're